Hey sketchy friends, if you're new here, my name is Taria and this channel is all about travel and urban sketching, and I just wanted to let you know really quickly that my book, The Beginner's Guide to Urban Sketching, is now available in the US and Canada. It was published on Tuesday the 5th of December 2023, if you're watching this in the future, and it should be available in the rest of the world maybe end of January 2024. So you can pre-order from your favorite book retailer, but yes, just to let you know, it should be around the end of January, beginning of Feb 2024 if you're outside the US and Canada, but super excited. So just wanted to mention that really quickly. For those of you who've already bought the book, thank you so much. It means the world to me. I've had some really nice feedback already. Do consider leaving me a little review on Amazon, even if you didn't buy the book there. It does really help. And yeah, just a massive thank you for getting the book, for all of your support. It's been a huge project and it's just a really massive milestone. So yeah, I'm glad it's kind of done and out there now, and we can start working on some equally awesome projects moving forward as well. Okay, so today's video is all about fun compositional devices. I know that sounds a bit scary or complicated. Fun things you can do to make your urban sketches look really cool. So that's what I want to go through with you guys today. And I'm going to show you multiple examples that I've found from other sketchers around the internet, whether it's Instagram, Pinterest. I always like to collect interesting sketches that I see, and it helps me think about how I can pass this information on to you and inspire you to make interesting urban sketches as well. So let's get into the video and let me show you these different compositions that you can use to make your urban sketches look really cool. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is presenting your sketches in some kind of comic book style panels, which I think look really cool. So basically like this, like squares or shapes that resemble squares or rectangles. So this example is by Santi Sales, and I just really like how he's captured these different natural areas of Barcelona. By the way, if you want to join me in Spain in April 2024, I still have a couple of spaces left on a travel sketching vacation that you can join with me. We start and finish in Barcelona, but we also go down to the Costa Brava as well during the trip. And you have me for 7 days, 6-7 days, and I'll teach you everything I know about travel sketching. So that would be really cool. So yeah, seamless segue into Matt Lett. I always love following his work on Instagram, so do check him out at Matt Lett. But again, he's used different size panels across his page here to make a really interesting sketchbook page of Rome. And you know, some of these panels are really tiny, so it just takes the overwhelm out of sketching massive scenes if all you have to do is just fill a small box. But when you put them together as a whole, they just look really fun. This example is by Wild Ink Sketch, and you can see they haven't drawn boxes around, but they've still done a collection of small sketches across the page, which I think look really pretty. And what's connecting them is the color scheme. So yeah, really beautifully done. And then a few examples here from illustrator Katie Moody of different boxes she's drawn, and she's keeping it really simple. These aren't necessarily urban sketches that I know of, but I'm just showing you that such a compositional device could really make your sketching look really cool. This example is by Jens Hubner. He was actually on the Holiday Sketching Summit hosted by Oliver Holler the other day, a few days ago, which I was also a part of. It was really cool. Really great little interviews with several different sketchers. And Jens, I love his work, and I just love this. On the right hand side of the page, you've got these equal sized boxes, and then just over on the left it's just slightly jaunty and the picture's coming out of the box. I think he's drawn round like a credit card or a bank card or something, so all of the boxes are the same size. I just really love how he's composed this on the page. It's just a bit off kilter, but it's unexpected, but it's just really awesome. I really like it. Really simple sketches as well, just check that out. Then the legend that is Stephanie Bauer. She's got her 4 equal boxes across the page here, with some beautiful sketches, architectural sketches. It's definitely with some demonstrating some beautiful use of light and shadow, how the light is traveling through the scene. And then I tried it myself a few times. This is one example when I sketched from the car when me and my husband were on our honeymoon trip, and I did a few panoramic boxes. Quite tricky to sketch in the car, but it was really fun anyway. Let's move on to the next one, which is sketching a scene through a window or a door. So this sketcher has done a great job of sketching the Sky Tower in Auckland. Initially, I thought this was the Space Needle in Seattle. I'm so happy I clicked through to this article whilst I'm editing this video to discover that it's actually the Sky Tower in Auckland, not the Space Needle in Seattle. So this is from a blog on urbansketches.org, but unfortunately I just couldn't see the sketcher's name anywhere in the article or on the sketch. I'm not sure who sketched this, but someone living, I believe from reading the article, someone living in Auckland sketched this. And I just think it's a really, really fun way to capture such a landmark, sketching through the window. And you can see that they're kind of sketching looking up through the window, and I can only assume that's because they wanted to see the top of the Sky Tower. Otherwise they'd be kind of just looking directly at like the pole or the trunk of it, or whatever you want to call it, the tower part, rather than the interesting top part. And notice that they haven't drawn anything else around the window. They've just detailed and coloured the things through the window, and it's just an extremely effective and interesting compositional device. This next one, the same from SketchBook. It is through a door / window, I suppose. And I love how you can see like the negative space of the chairs that are in front of it as well. I think that's really clever. Again, everything around it is left in white space, and just the stuff that's through the opening in the wall, whether it's a door or a window, I'm not sure, is coloured and detailed. And again, very, very clever. Another one, I think by this person, it's always difficult to really get to the attribution on Pinterest, I'm afraid, but this might be by Lizette Sutherland, but please do forgive me if I'm wrong. But this one is through a door as well, again with the chair in front of it, which is quite interesting. And this one is by Art by Anita. And I love how she's drawn Plaza de España through the archway. But then at the bottom, she's just included these little mosaic tiles as well. Overall, I just think that's a really fun sort of travel journal page. And then also had a bit of a go at it myself. This one's from probably quite a few years ago, but I was drawing our garden from the patio. So I do have the patio on the ground, but I've kept the walls blank and just tried to detail out the stuff that's in the middle that I'm looking through the patio at. And I just think it's a really fun effect. So do have a go at this one, do try it out. Here's another one on toned paper, which I think is extremely successful. And toned paper is something I'm working with a lot at the moment, and I'm trying to learn how to use it effectively. So you'll see those sketches over on Instagram if that's somewhere that you are. Check me out on Instagram at Taria's_sketchy_adventures. Just very simplistic, but very, very effective. I love it. This one's a bit of an alternative. It's actually through a car window, but again, leaving the white space around the car window frame relatively blank and just detailing and colouring what's through the window and in the mirror. Really, really cool. I love this effect so much. This one is by Andre SH555, so you can go and follow him on Instagram if you want to. And then this is another one of mine from several years back. Where is it? 2018. This was actually during a little workshop with Shoreditch Sketcher, and this was through a tunnel. So you can see the dark walls of the tunnel either side, and then looking through down the street. I actually did a little demo of this one in my new book, The Beginner's Guide to Urban Sketching. I do a bit of an instructional on this scene, so you can check that out there if you wish to. The next one is Exaggerating Depth, and I'll be honest with you here, guys, I didn't find as many examples as I really wanted to. I trawled through so many sketches, and I just couldn't find what I was looking for so much, but you'll see what I mean here. This is a nice example by Mike De Kubra, and he's got his pizza really large in the foreground, and then just small little background elements of the cafe restaurant he was in. So that's kind of what I'm talking about, like just really exaggerating maybe something in the foreground. This is an awesome one by WCC_watercolor over on over on Instagram. And again, it's almost got a bit of a fisheye effect, but the guy in the front there is really, really large, and then the scene wraps around. It's perhaps a little more complicated or advanced, especially when you're drawing people. But the example by Mike De Kubra there, I mean, yeah, you just draw something much larger in the foreground, and then things in the background are much, much smaller, even if they are things that in real life you would expect to be bigger than that foreground object. So I hope that makes sense. As I said, I wanted to find a few more examples for this, but this one is by Virginia Hine. You can just see the use of perspective as well. Like, she's just really emphasizing that tree in the foreground, and it's almost like she's sitting quite low on the ground. It just makes for a much more interesting composition. So I hope that one's clear enough for you guys. The next one I want to talk about, and I've talked about this a lot anyway before, is using loads of white space. I just think it's one of the most effective ways to make your sketch really stand out. And I've got a whole video on sketching less and saying more, minimalist urban sketching, that kind of thing, where I do talk a lot about white space. But this example here by Lind_Illustrator, really cool. I mean, literally, this is the epitome of sketching less and potentially saying more. Like, this is all this is all she needed to draw to describe this scene. Really, really cool. This example by Hoe Caterino, who I did mention in my minimalist urban sketcher video. Again, loads of white space, and drawn all the buildings in just black pen, but then it comes to the water and he's coloured that in, and it's just such a awesome effect. Really, really cool. This one is by the amazing Kosha Kerner, who I'm sure you all know. She's got a fantastic YouTube channel as well, which I'm sure you guys already watch. But this one, again, lots of white space, and she's just used like spot colour on the sort of back wall there and the sideboard. Really, really effective. So the next time you are thinking about doing your urban sketch, just think about where maybe you'll leave lots of white space and negative space, and where you would apply colour just to give focus and emphasis. This one's a little busier, but it's still a lot of white space on the right. The sketch kind of just dissipates off, and your eye is totally drawn to those stairs over on the left-hand side of the page. It's just a great, great device. So this next one is creating a shape on the page, and to be honest, this whole category was centered around me thinking about Captain Tom. I absolutely adore his sketches. He's definitely one of my sketching heroes. And you see how he's kind of made this like long U shape across the page. I'm gonna show a bit more of a closer look, where on the left side here, it just comes up in a slope and he just trails off. He is the absolute master of composition like this on the page, drawing a scene in a certain shape across the page, and I think it's really, really effective. Here's another one of his where you can see the hill slopes down, and then another one where he's got a few sketches across the page. So these examples are from a sketcher who, reading between the lines, it looks like they may have attended the Manchester Urban Sketchers Symposium in 2016. So Kia Kien Ching, I hope I've said that correctly. But again, drawing in a certain shape across the page. These sketches are absolutely beautiful. This one's from Brussels, same sketcher. And then this is my attempt, not really consciously, but I just saw it and I was like, oh yeah, this kind of illustrates my point as well. I sketched this in Auckland in New Zealand when I was there for the symposium. So it's kind of just like almost sketching within a shape. And for me, I can't comment on the other sketches process, but for this one, I painted the random shapes on the page first and then drew within them. But I'm not sure about the previous sketcher I mentioned. And I think Captain Tom generally draws first and then would paint over the top, but don't quote me on that. And then this last one is SketchBook Orientation. So using your sketchbook in perhaps a different orientation than you might expect. And my favourite example of this is people who use long landscape sketchbooks in a portrait manner. And I just think it's really, really effective and a really fun thing to do. I love the work of this sketcher from Minsk in Belarus. Her name on Instagram is Zart, but with underscores underneath. You can see it on the screen. She draws just such mundane objects, but she does it so well that it's like, oh, breathtaking, you know. I think I've mentioned her in videos before. Another of my absolute favourites is Alien Bin Bin, and he does a lot of portrait sketching in his landscape sketchbook, but in a portrait manner, and he's just got such an amazing style. So this one may or may not be intentional. This is by Bar Sketcher on Instagram, but they've kind of drawn like on the diagonal of their sketchbook or sketchpad, and I think that's really interesting. I think that's a really nice effect. Another one where, you know, you're in front of a landscape and you'd expect someone perhaps to sketch a landscape orientation in their landscape orientation sketchbook, but they haven't. They've done it in portrait, and it's just so much more interesting. Another example by Alien Bin Bin, and again, I love how he composes his sketches, and right in the foreground he's got his hands sketching in his sketchbook, and then it kind of, he's just got this slice of life that kind of bends through the page. And I've since found out that he was a huge fan of Kim Young-ji. I think he actually has a photo with him, and very much a student of how he used to draw. I say used to because unfortunately he died reasonably recently. And that sort of explains a lot to me, the way that Alien Bin Bin draws. But just absolutely masterful, like really awesome to look at. And it was great to see him included in the urban sketching book by Stephanie Bauer that came out a year or so ago. Because absolutely deserves to be featured. Just absolutely brilliant artwork. This is another one by Zart, just like amazing sketches of like pipes going up an apartment block, just awesome. And another one, again, a portrait sketch of the wing out of the window. So just a very interesting use of a sketchbook. And not just doing the same thing in the same way as, you know, we've seen a million times over. So I really hope that this video has given you loads of inspiration on the various things that you can do to make your urban sketches more interesting. Don't worry if you're like, oh, I'm only a beginner, I shouldn't be trying these things. No, that's absolutely not true. You should definitely try a variety of these things. I would absolutely recommend trying out the comic book panels for a start. I think that's a really great way to try something different with your urban sketches, and you're sketching in smaller spaces, so it might be less overwhelming. And I definitely recommend trying lots of white space as well, because then you have to draw less stuff, hey? So that seems easier, although it's not. Definitely watch my video on minimalist urban sketching. There is quite the art to that. So yeah, have a go at some of these, have fun with them, just get out there and draw. Don't worry about what it looks like, just have loads of fun, and I will see you in the next video.